All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. I am bringing Michael McCready on today to talk about technology, law, firm, law automation, and why, where, when, how, all that kind of stuff. Michael, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
Michael is a 30 plus year attorney, personal injury, workers' comp in Chicago, who, unlike a lot of us attorneys, has really taken the bull by the horn in terms of law office, software, automation, how to make it work, for the lawyers and the law firms, in terms of efficiencies, and also how to help with the client experience, which I know a lot of us lawyers, we never really got that training in bedside manner where a pit bull, go to court, whatever. And oh my God, now all of a sudden I got to deal with the clients also. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. You take the lead here, Michael. What are we talking about? Why can't I just bring out my typewriter and my fax machine and my legal books and be the lawyer that I wanted to be?
All right, come on, Greg. You know we're well past legal pads and pens,
Yes.
but let's take the next step beyond computers, right? I mean, every lawyer is versed in how to use a computer to a certain extent. Even if you've got staff that are doing electronic filing, you realize these things are out there. You know a Word document from a PDF. So I think that you're shortchanging most lawyers out there. But what I put into practice in my firm is as follows. I firmly believe in client satisfaction and trying to give the best client experience possible, right? Clients don't know whether we're good lawyers or not. They know if we return phone calls. They know if we're polite to them. Now, we are good lawyers, but going beyond on that extra step. Clients are used to customer service like they get at Amazon or at Target or Starbucks. And we know lawyers are the opposite end of the spectrum. So what I wanted to do is try to improve the client experience. And the first step is in communication. Lawyers are bad at communicating to clients. A lot of bar and ethic complaints stem from lack of communication. So I started with that in mind. And I've just continued to try to run with it to improve the client experience. And by doing so, I've been able to do that with technology and automation.
Did you develop the technology and automation yourself? Did you adopt it? Somebody else, like let's just say you're a law firm and you're like, yeah, I just cannot get a handle on my automation. It doesn't really work for me. Like, how did you get to it?
Very well, I started by looking at all the emails that I get, right? And if you study your email box, you start noticing patterns. You get these emails from, as soon as you buy something at a store, you go on their mailing list. Some of these mailing lists are so complex that if you buy a tent at Dick's Sporting Goods, well, then they're going to start sending you ads for sleeping bags. Or, I mean, it's really, really fascinating. Computers do all that behind the scenes. It's not somebody saying, oh, well, Michael bought a tent and let's see if he wants a sleeping bag. So if you pay attention to your inbox, it's been happening to you, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah.
So I started with that premise. And then I looked at how do we communicate with our clients? At what points do we communicate with our clients? It seems, we say the same speeches to clients every single day, right? So client calls and says, hey, have you heard from the insurance company? Well, no, we sent your demand letter out, and usually it takes about 2 or 3 weeks before they evaluate it. Then I'll start calling the same speeches over and over again. Also, we get a lot of inbound calls. What's the status of my case? What's going on with my case? And you can't blame clients. This is a new process for them. So what I wanted to do is look at every stage in the client experience and what could I do to proactively teach my client and proactively communicate what was happening in their case. Okay. When we file a lawsuit, I think every lawyer sends a copy of the complaint to the client, right? Just automatic. Hey, we filed a lawsuit. Here's your pleading. That's really easy. But there are so many other things that we do on a case that clients have no idea that we do, right? We go to court. We take depositions. We answer discovery. Or in the personal injury practice, on the pre-lit side, we've ordered medical records. We're sending out a demand. We're negotiating. So I looked at all the different stages that happen in my client experience, and this is my firm. It might be someone else's processes, but if you look at all the times that you can communicate with a client and sort of map those out, well, what do you want to communicate to the client at what point? So it starts as soon as we sign up a case. So they've signed the contract. Immediately, an automated email goes out to the client, and it's got a video of me that says, hey, welcome to the firm. We're really happy to represent you. I'm Michael McCready. These are some of the things that you can expect. These are our promises to you. So as soon as we sign up a client, it's not somebody sending that email. It's triggered automatically in our system, okay? A couple days later, we send out another email with a survey from the client. How was your intake experience? Did they answer all your questions? How were you treated by reception? Do you have any questions? Now, my intake team is really good. And so very rarely do we get anything less than a 5 from these surveys. But what I have done is I have planted in the client's mind that we will periodically be reaching out to them to get feedback from them about how we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I look at communication as going 2 ways. It's our communication to the client, updating them on their case, but it's also the client updating us on how we're doing. So 30 days in, another automated email goes out that says, tell us about your case manager. How is the communication? Is it too much, just enough, not enough? Have they answered all your questions? Who is your case manager? Because if they don't know on a first name basis who their case manager is, then my case managers aren't doing their job. Okay. Yeah. So we send out these surveys periodically in the case. And they're all triggered automatically within our system.
All right. So your system, you did not necessarily develop it from scratch. You bought into a system and then automated it.
Yeah, most case management systems will have some functionality that allows you to do this. Okay, so here's the concept of automation: is you need a trigger. Okay, what is it that happens in your computer system? It could be you set an appointment. So you set a date for deposition, or let's say you receive a certain document, or let's say a status changes. So what is it that triggers the action? The action is what happens. And most of our actions are sending an email or sending a text. So let me give you a real world example. And one of the first things that we started with, when a case is over, every client, we tell them, hey, the check will be here within 30 days. The next day they're calling, is my check there? No, we told you it'd be 30 days. And then they call a week later. No, and they will call and they will call and they will call. And you can't blame them. They want their money. And you would have clients that would call every day. And then we would tell them, well, the mail doesn't come until 3. Well, now they're calling at 3:01. So what could we do to avoid those inbound calls? So we came up with a trigger, and the trigger is when we mail the release to the insurance company. So as soon as we do that, the next day, a text goes out to the client that says, hey, we mailed the release to the insurance company. It's going to be 30 days.
Yeah.
7 days later, it says, we mailed the release a week ago. We're not expecting the check soon. It can take up to 30 days, but wanted to let you know that we're looking for it, and we will let you know when it comes in.
Yeah.
10 days. Well, the mail came today and your check wasn't there. It's not overdue. 14 days, 17 days, 20 days. Every 3 days, we're texting the client a different, seemingly custom text about the status of their check. And it's cut down on all of the inbound calls tremendously.
Yeah.
Now, after 21 days, we have a text that goes out. We called the adjuster and left a voicemail about the status of your case. Now, we really didn't do that, but that's what we tell them.
Yeah.
24 days. Hey, we haven't heard back from the adjuster. We're going to continue to follow up. Most of the time, we're going to get the check within 30 days. But on those off situations, then we will proactively call the client and say, hey, listen, some form was missing, or the adjuster's on vacation. But by automating this, this communication with the client, it's avoided all of those inbound calls about the status of the check.
Go ahead.
So then, once you understand that concept, what other areas can you do to update clients? So when they're done treating, we have to order medical records. Most of the time, we'll get records within 30 or 60 days. With COVID, it was taking longer, but we created a series of follow-up texts that go out every week or 10 days that just say, hey, we've ordered your medical records. Hey, some of your records came in, but not all of them. We can't, next text, we can't send your demand until we have all the records, because it's important that we submit an entire package. The next text, we've gotten most of them, but there's still a few providers. The next text, I realize that you're anxious to get your case moving, and that's great, but we will handle ordering the medical records. There's nothing that you can do. And by that time, we usually have them all. But now my case managers don't need to call the client just to tell them we're waiting on records, because we're automatically notifying them.
All right. So how long have you been basically working on this system? Has this been a 10-year project for you?
No.
20 years? And my follow-up question to that is, what have you learned along the way that, you tried something and you're like, I'm not going to do that. That blew up in my face?
Well, I would say that you always want to improve your processes in your law firm. Okay. No matter what area of practice that you have, from the minute the client calls you to your time you close the file, there are processes in there. And they can be broken down into different stages of the case. So the first step is to really take a look at, what are your processes, and then start small. The things that I'm talking about, are things that have taken a long time for us to figure out that we can do. But you start small. Like I said, that we started with notifying the client that we were waiting for the check, understood that concept, and then we just rolled it out in different areas, in different stages of the case. So anything that went wrong. First, anytime you change processes in a firm, you have to make sure you get buy-in from everybody else. Okay. It doesn't work just to say, hey, we're going to change this wholesale and we're going to do it this way, whether you like it or not. So So rolling out these ideas or these improvements should be done gradually. You should have buy-in from every team member that it affects, and explain to them, why this will help them do their job better. Okay, so when our clients are still treating, we've got a whole bunch of emails that go out about the importance of treatment. If the doctor recommends an MRI, what's an MRI, why you should go for it. So those are all things that in the old days, my case managers or my attorneys would have to explain to every single client. So now that we have created these automations, now my case managers can focus on the really important phone calls, like, hey, you've missed 3 physical therapy visits. I'm your case manager. You really need to get through, you really need to follow through with your medical treatment. Or, that's just my practice area. But if you can keep the client informed about every step of the way, then it allows the conversations that you do have to focus on really substantive matters. So going back to rolling it out, when I started doing these automations, I had a lot of pushback. Oh, we're going to send all these texts out and they're just going to blow up our phones and call and text. And I understand that. I understand that concern, but you know what? It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay. They were scared. Oh, if I send a text to a client that we're still waiting on medical records, they're going to call me right away. It's the opposite. The more communication that you have outbound to the client, the less inbound communication that you're going to have. So we don't get clients frequently calling for status of their case because everybody knows, because of the automated communications that we've set up.
Yeah, I think that to some degree, you have to understand what types of clientele you have when you're developing this. So in the personal injury, workers' comp space, I would assume that many of your clients, this is their first go round or their second go round, and they don't understand. So they probably go in already knowing, oh, lawyers don't call back. I've heard all these horror stories, and all of a sudden they're like getting flooded with texts. And they're like, okay, I got it. I see you're on top of my case. And that may be part of the magic in terms of like calming them down, letting them know that you're not working. The wheels of justice turn very slowly. So, a lot of times nothing might apparently be going on for 6 months, just because while you're anxious to move your case forward, the other side is just the opposite. They're trying to slow it down to as big a crawl as possible. Some attorneys, let's say a lot of my attorneys are not professional litigants, but they're very sophisticated. They've had lots of claims. And so they don't even want to hear from me. They just want to check. They're perfectly content. I think they fear an email from me because then they see they're going to have to do something. So I think that to some degree, this has to be sort of tailored to your what you're trying to achieve and who your client is. Do you mind sharing the software that you use?
Yeah, I use a Smart Advocate, which is specifically for plaintiff's personal injury. Suits my needs really well, but most of the case management systems out there, from Filevine to Clio to Smokeball, trying to think some of the others, Law Ruler, I think. Anyway, most of them have this capability built into them. And I want to reassure people, okay, I am not a computer programmer. I couldn't program one line of code at all. These tools that are built into this case management system are very similar to what are in other types of software out there, whether it's MailChimp or Salesforce or Infusionsoft. Basically, anything that you can create and automate, you can do within these case management systems itself. It's not heavy-duty programming. So getting back to one of my first points is, you have to have the legal background to know what has to happen in a case, and then just apply it to the tools that you have, or not expecting the attorneys to do that, but there are really smart people in your firm that can figure this stuff out. And with a little bit of direction, it doesn't need to be the attorney that does it.
And some of them actually like to do it. I've noticed that they prefer that doing that than some of the legal work. Years ago, when I was first thinking about value added, how could I separate myself from my competitors in the context of providing better client relations, I was thinking of developing a system where my clients could access their files and see what the status was. Do you do anything like that? Have you thought about that? Like,
my case management has got a client portal. I think most case management systems have some sort of sharing. I chose not to do it, and I'll tell you the reasons why. One is, I've got a portal at my doctor's office that I never use, okay? And I consider myself fairly sophisticated. I just don't know how often clients would use it to make it worthwhile. But more importantly, I was concerned about creating protocols of what could and could not be shared in that portal. Let's be honest, there are things in our files that we do not want to share, the document with our client. God forbid, a summary of a phone call with the client that may not be worded artfully shows up in the client portal. And then third, and I think it's gotten better, but when the client portal first started rolling out, there were security concerns because you're granting someone access to a portal, and that portal is connected to your case management system. Our case management system is our lifeblood. It's got to be so buttoned down with security. So I don't use the client portal. I know some firms that do, but I've never heard anybody say, wow, it's a game changer. Our clients love it. But once again, depending on who your clients are and your area of practice, that might be different.
So let's, I know that you think everybody's out there, technology savvy and all that, but I have a lot of colleagues that and I say, listen, go call Fileline, and you don't realize, how much time you're pissing away on your inefficiencies. And, so let's just say somebody's out there listening and they're like, you know what, our system stinks. We don't have a system, whatever, we need to do something. What do you recommend to people in terms of being able to figure out which of the software to use?
Right. So my first question, because I'm asked this a lot on case management systems, my first question is, what are you currently using and how are you using it? Okay. If you're using it to manage your calendar, to manage your contacts, and then for a document document storage, you can do that with the Google suite of business products or Microsoft suite of products. You don't need all those bells and whistles. You really don't. You're going to be paying for it. Even me, the use of Smart Advocate, I'm only using 70, 80%. But if you're only going to use 10 or 20% of the features of the software, why go for all the bells and whistles? Now, the next thing is, ideally, you have someone in-house. You get some really smart, kid who's just a whiz. Listen, somebody who's on social media knows how to manipulate all these things. See if they're interested. Hey, take a look at my case management. Show me what. You'd be surprised. You may get someone in-house, but absent those two things, there are independent contractors that will come in and help you set up and help you run your case management system. If you do a Google search, Filevine Consultants, okay, you're going to find, a dozen companies that will be able to help you build that out, and largely with any of the case management. And when in doubt, contact your case management company. Hey, who do you recommend? I'm lost. I love your product. I believe in it, but I can't figure it out. Who would you recommend that I could hire that could, help me work this the way that it needs to be?
Yeah. One thing that I really, when I'm listening to you here, I know I need help a little bit as well. I mean, I'm changing from one type of law to, my actual bread and butter has been legislated out, and I have other areas of law, but now I need to ramp them up. So I need to sort of get my mind set on what am I doing with my case management. And one thing that I like that you mentioned is the ability to communicate through text. So are you doing that through your software? Does that software actually have that feature, or are you doing something else?
100%. I would not use any case management software without the ability to text.
Yeah.
And so the outgoing text when we're texting a client is, typed on our keyboard, and it goes through our system. It's logged in our system, and then any incoming texts are logged in our system. Our clients, 90% of them are communicating by text.
Yeah.
I prefer email, but I have to go with what everybody else prefers. And texting is so it's so less formal, right? And you can keep clients up to date via text. Like I had said, hey, we're still waiting for your check. It's not late. We'll give you a call as soon as it comes in. What's that? 3 sentences. That's a text.
Yeah. No, and I mean, listen, I mean, I just think that's everybody's using text to communicate these days. Your phone is always essentially open to the text. To get the email, you have to do that extra step. I'm getting 500 to 1,000 emails a day, but I'm maybe getting 20 texts a day. So just even the numbers wise, that seems to be, much more like in my mind, that's my go-to way of communicating if I got something urgent or what have you. All right, I want to end on this last little topic, which is going back to the text and all that and your software. Do you use it to actually market?
I'm sorry?
Do you use your software and like the texting capabilities to market?
To market to my clients, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're always encouraging them to contact us, to use us as a referral source. So yeah, we reinforce that message, and it goes with some of our firm values. A firm value is community. We owe the community for our success, and we want to give back. And so we're always trying to, express that to clients. Another value is accessibility. We try to break the stereotype of stuffy lawyers. We're very good at what we do, but we're also humans and decent people. So we're always trying to cross market. I don't do mass torts, but I will frequently send out a blast to our mailing list and to our current clients that, hey, if you or a loved one was on Camp Lejeune between these years, we're looking into these cases. Feel free to reach out to me. And so from that perspective, we don't do medical malpractice in-house, but we're always saying, hey, if you've been the victim of medical malpractice, reach out to us first, because we'll be able to send you somewhere that will. So yeah, we're always reinforcing that, the marketing to come to us first. If we can't handle it, we'll probably know someone who can.
All right. Did I miss anything that you think needs to be talked about?
I wouldn't say it needs to be talked about, but really, this is not as complex as you think. And it doesn't have to be you. I mean, if you're the lawyer and you love practicing law, go do that. But you do need somebody else to be concerned about the technology part. You don't need to get where McCready is today, but you do need to have some of these systems in place, and the computer and the software that you already have, if used, can help tremendously and allow you, to practice law more, bill more hours, or handle more clients. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to maximize and leverage your time.
All right. So listen, I think all you lawyers out there that just, have had so many bad client experiences and phone calls, and oh my God, the client is calling again and all that. Think about what Michael is telling you here. You can get ahead of the game. You can resolve probably one of our biggest complaints as lawyers, these client relations, by automating properly and keeping the clients up to date. That they just want to hear from you. And so, Michael, if there's a lawyer out there or somebody running a law firm and like, you know what, we have to do this, what's the best way to contact you?
My website, McCreadyLaw.com, and everything gets routed to me that should be getting routed to me. New cases, they all go to intake. And shameless plug, as a personal injury lawyer, we've got offices throughout Illinois and Indiana, and always looking for new referral relationships. But through the website's the best way to reach me.
All right, outstanding. And we will put a lot of your social media stuff, which I was checking out, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You're ubiquitous. You're a social media star almost, I would say.
Well, Gregg, this is a perfect example, okay? I don't know the first thing about social media, but I've got really smart people that are doing it.
All right. Well, that'll be our secret. That'll be our secret.
There
all
you
right.
go. There you
All right.
go.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Michael McCready telling you lawyers and law firm people how to advance in the world that we are living in today and what people are expecting, clients. So you know what to do. Subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to be dropping all of Michael's information in the show notes in case you want to reach out to him or see what he's doing from behind the scenes. All right. And that'll do it, Michael. Thank you for coming on to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Gregg.